That day, I wasn't just going to TechFlow Plaza to deliver sushi. But what I saw when I stepped off the elevator on the 47th floor would expose Silicon Valley's darkest secret and force me to reveal the former Air Force drone commander identity I'd hidden for 6 years. My name is Maya Rodriguez. I'm 28 years old, and I work as an Uber Eats driver in San Francisco. At least, that's what everyone thinks. When I left my small studio apartment in the Mission District that morning, I had no idea my life was about to change completely. Rent was due in 2 weeks, and I only had $247 in my bank account. I sat in my worn Honda Civic, checking the Uber Eats app on my phone. In my oversized black hoodie and baseball cap, I looked like a typical gig economy worker. This appearance was intentional. I wanted people to overlook me. I also hid the small scar on my left hand, a shrapnel wound from Afghanistan, the same way. A new notification appeared on my phone. TechFlow Plaza, 47th floor, in Avatic. $120 sushi order. I sighed. I made at least 15 deliveries to that building daily, and I knew exactly how the people there treated me. Like I was invisible. If I had known what was happening there that day, I never would have approached that building. Since moving to San Francisco 9 months ago, I'd spent most of my days at TechFlow Plaza. This 52-story glass skyscraper was like the heart of the tech world. I remember my first days. Security guard Jackson had greeted me like I was a potential terrorist. He asked the same questions every delivery, as if he was seeing me for the first time. This didn't bother me. I applied the OPSEC principles I'd learned during military training to my civilian life. The less personal information I shared, the safer I was. As months passed, people there stopped noticing me. Derek Morrison, Innovatech's CTO, referred to me as that Mexican delivery girl. He never bothered to learn I was Puerto Rican. Human Resources Director Jennifer Park was even worse. I once overheard her tell Derek that having these types of people wandering around the office created security risks. I didn't react at that moment. Emotional control was one of the most important parts of my military training. The only exception was 23-year-old Rachel Kim. She always greeted me with a smile. Even this behavior was considered unprofessional. The same pattern repeated every day. Jackson subjected me to ID checks every time. In the elevator, employees would act as if I wasn't there even when we shared the same space. I once heard 2 marketing managers talking next to me. When will these delivery people learn to be less conspicuous? As if I wasn't there. When delivering food in the office, no one made eye contact with me. When calculating money, they'd ask, "Is this right?" As if assuming I didn't know math. They tipped $2 on $120 orders. Once, when I urgently needed to use the restroom, Jackson told me to go to the basement. A 15-minute journey. But I endured it all quietly. What they didn't know was what I'd been unconsciously doing for 9 months, analyzing every detail of this building. My military background compelled me to constantly analyze situations. Without realizing it, I'd been cataloging TechFlow Plaza's security systems, employee behaviors, and workflows. The security systems were civilian standard but weak from a military perspective. The card access system wasn't monitored. Security cameras had blind spots at critical locations. Emergency procedures were inadequate. I'd memorized every company's working hours. Innovatic employees were in the office from 9 o'clock a.m. to 6 o'clock p.m. Senior executives were usually absent Friday afternoons. While making deliveries, I automatically observed employees' phone conversations, email screens, and meeting notes. 6 years of Air Force intelligence training enabled me to categorize this information. I wasn't doing any of this consciously. These were just old habits. On Monday, May 27th, I was following my normal routine. At 12:47 p.m., that notification came to my phone. TechFlow Plaza, 47th floor, in Avatic. $143 lunch order. On the way, I listened to news on the radio about tech stocks falling and trade tensions with China escalating. My old military training compelled me to follow geopolitical developments. I arrived at TechFlow Plaza at 1:15 p.m. Jackson gave me his usual cold reception. Name? Maya Rodriguez. I took my access card and headed to the elevator. Going up to the 47th floor, I thought it would be a routine delivery. I'd realize how wrong I was in 30 seconds. When the elevator doors opened, The first thing I noticed was silence. Normally, the Innovatic office would be bustling during lunch break, but today was different. I only saw two people, Sarah at the reception desk and an unfamiliar security guard walking down the hallway. I approached Sarah. Delivery. Her voice was more tense than usual. Which department? I don't know. It just said 47th floor Innovatic. Sarah picked up the phone and had a brief conversation. I could make out that delivery girl is here. Please wait. Someone will come get it. While waiting, I began noticing the abnormalities around me. The office was much emptier than normal. Where there were usually 35 to 40 people on this floor, there were only 6-7, and they were all acting differently. Alarm bells started ringing in my mind. I waited for 15 minutes, and during this time, I used the observation techniques my old military training had taught me. In one of the conference rooms, there was electronic equipment I'd never seen before. It looked like signal jamming devices. There were two additional security guards I didn't recognize. They looked like professional security. Current employees were constantly whispering and using earpieces. These were unusual behaviors for normal office workers. Some desks had been moved from their positions, and office doors that were normally open were closed. This situation reminded me of pre-mission briefings during operations in Afghanistan. Something was going wrong. After 15 minutes, Derek Morrison appeared. He approached with his usual confident walk, but there was an unusual tension on his face. You're that delivery girl, right? Yes. Your lunch order. Good. But we have a small problem today. He looked around, as if checking whether they were being listened to. I need you to take the food to the executive conference room. 47A. End of the hallway. This was abnormal. I'd never been asked to take anything to the executive conference room in 9 months. Usually, food was delivered at the reception desk, and we have some important guests there. Deliver quietly and leave immediately, okay? Derek's emphasized tone seemed suspicious, but I didn't ask questions. Sure. As I walked down the hallway, I continued cataloging the abnormalities around me. Security cameras were positioned at different angles. They were strategically placed. The personnel I saw in the hallway were strangers. I'd been working at Innovatic for 9 months and didn't recognize these people. Several people were using earpieces and in constant communication. This behavior was unusual for normal office workers. When I reached the door of conference room 47A, the man waiting outside was definitely not an Innovatic employee. Black suit, earpiece, and bold body structure. He looked like professional security. Delivery. He looked me up and down. Go in, put it on the table, and leave. My internal alarm system reached maximum level. This man's behavior reminded me of a federal agent or a private military contractor. When I opened the door, the scene before me was shocking. There were 6 people in the room, and none appeared to be Innovatic employees. 3 middle-aged men at the table in expensive suits were working with laptops. Their speaking accents weren't American, probably Eastern European. On the table were electronic devices I'd never seen before. They looked like signal processing devices, encrypted communication systems, and data transfer equipment. The wall screens showed technical schematics. At first glance, I could tell they were drone technology schematics. Thanks to my 6 years of Air Force experience, there were armed security guards in 2 corners of the room. These were definitely not normal office security. As I placed the food bag on the table, I could see the laptop screen next to me. A file labeled Project Blackbird Classified was open. My blood ran cold. I knew exactly what that classification level meant. While I was taking out the food and arranging it on the table, one of the men focused his attention on me. He was different from the others, probably American, but had a professional surveillance background. Where are you from? Los Angeles. How long have you been delivering to this company? This question was abnormal. Under normal circumstances, no one asked me these kinds of personal questions. The man's way of asking reminded me of someone with interrogation training. 9 months. Do you have family here? My internal alarm system reached maximum level. These questions were only asked during security clearance processes or threat assessments. No any military service in your background? When I heard this question, my heart raced, but my facial expression didn't change. 6 years of Air Force training had given me perfect emotional control. No, I just do deliveries. As I finished with the food, Conversation fragments that reached my ears told me the seriousness of the situation. Data transfer must be completed within 48 hours. No one from the Pentagon should suspect. 3 million confirmed for Blackbird project files. Through these conversations, I understood there was corporate espionage, maybe even treason-level operation before me. I'd been able to read part of the Project Blackbird file on the laptop screen. Classified U.S. military drone technology advanced targeting system stealth capability upgrade SI-powered autonomous operations. This information belonged to military drone technology and was definitely not information civilian companies could access. Worse yet, it was being sold to foreign nationals. I gathered my bag and headed for the door. Wait, they say your name is Maya. What's your last name? Rodriguez. Interesting name. There are military bases in Puerto Rico, aren't there? This question crossed my tolerance limit. He was clearly fishing for information. I don't know. I just do deliveries. When I left the conference room, the security guard waiting in the hallway tried to stop me. Wait, you need to talk to my boss. Delivery's done. Time for me to go. It'll only take a few minutes. I stopped and looked at him. I could understand that I was being forcibly detained in this situation. My options were limited. I found myself in the middle of the hallway, on the 47th floor, probably among 6-8 trained security personnel. For a normal delivery driver, this situation would be hopeless. But I wasn't a normal delivery driver. Okay, but I'm in a real hurry. The man directed me back to the conference room. While appearing to comply, I was actually scanning and cataloging my surroundings, emergency exit locations, security camera positions, potential weapons, escape routes. When we returned to the conference room, the man who had asked questions before was waiting for me. Maya, right? Please sit. I preferred to remain standing. I'm in a real hurry. I'll just ask a few questions. Do you only come to this building for deliveries? Yes. Have you ever come for any other purpose? No, the man pulled out a tablet and took my photo. This was completely unexpected. Why are you taking my picture? Routine security procedure. This explanation didn't make sense. I'd been working here for 9 months and no one had ever taken my photo. The questions continued. What's your education background? High school? Military service? No, while asking this question, he was carefully watching my face. Years of training had given me a perfect poker face. Have you ever seen anything unusual while working in this building? Strange people, weird activities? This question surprised me. It was as if he assumed I could observe, that I could pay attention to details. No, I just bring food. But you come 10 to 15 times a day and go to different floors. You can observe the activities in this building quite well. I was now fully alert. This conversation showed me that I was being given a threat assessment. I quickly assessed my situation. Before me was organized crime, corporate espionage, or foreign intelligence operation, and they saw me as a potential witness or threat. I evaluated my options. I could continue to maintain the innocent delivery driver role, but they were already suspicious. I could try to get out of the building, but I was on the 47th floor and surrounded by trained security personnel. I could try to gather more information, risky but valuable. Or, the last option I wanted, revealing my true identity. Maya, I want to ask you one more thing. The man came closer. Are you really just a delivery driver? That was the moment. My identity, which I'd hidden for 6 years, was in danger. Yes, I said calmly. I just do deliveries. But deep down, I knew this game was coming to an end. Maya, in our records, there are some gaps regarding your background. My heart raced, but there was no change in my face. What do you mean? There's no clear information about what you did between ages 18 and 24. This was impossible. Military records were classified and not linked to civilian systems. How had they traced it? During those years, I worked various jobs, places that didn't keep records. The man was scrolling through something on his tablet. Is it true that you were born in Puerto Rico? Yes. And you came to the mainland at 18? Yes. Does this photo look familiar to you? When he turned the tablet, what I saw on the screen stopped my heart. My photo from 6 years ago. In Air Force uniform. Staff Sergeant Maya Rodriguez. My blood froze. They had found me. Staff Sergeant Maya Rodriguez. 432nd Wing. remotely piloted aircraft division, 6 years of service, specialized drone operations, honorable discharge 2018. There was no more hiding. Where did you find this information? This is our business, Maya. Or should I say Staff Sergeant Rodriguez? The other men in the room were now looking at me. They had closed their laptops and were giving me their attention. Now the real question is, are you just doing deliveries here, or are you here for another purpose? I do deliveries. My military background has nothing to do with this. Drone operations specialist. Interesting background for a delivery driver. The men came closer. Maya, you've been working in this building for 9 months. During this time, you might have observed many things. You have an intelligence background, pattern recognition, surveillance techniques. The game had completely changed now. My innocent delivery driver role had ended. What do you want? Cooperation. You will forget what you saw here. This conversation never happened. Do you understand? And of course, the man continued. If you share this conversation with anyone, your old military friends might also be in danger. This was an open threat. They were targeting not just me, but my friends from my old unit. I understand. Good. Then you can go now. And Maya, don't come here again. Innovatic no longer uses delivery services. As I left the building, I had only one thought. This wasn't over. I had witnessed a corporate espionage operation and was now seen as a loose end. When I got into my Honda Civic, my hands were trembling. The identity I'd hidden for 6 years had been exposed. But there was something they didn't know. I wasn't just a witness. I was a trained specialist, and if they saw me as a threat, I could show them what a real threat looked like. When I got home, I pulled out a box I hadn't touched in years. Inside were my old military equipment, encrypted communication devices, surveillance gear, and contact information. First, I reached out to my old unit commander, Colonel Sarah Chen, through a secure line. Maya, we haven't heard from you in 6 years. Colonel, I have a situation. Classified information has fallen into civilian hands and is being sold to foreign nationals. Give me details. For 15 minutes, I reported what I had seen. Professional, concise, military style. Maya, you can't investigate this operation as a civilian. It's too dangerous. I know, ma'am, but they've already identified me. I'm no longer a civilian. I'm a target. There was a long silence. You know what you need to do, don't you, Maya? Yes, ma'am. Mission parameters are clear. Good hunting, Sergeant. I didn't sleep that night. My old tactical training kicked in. Mission planning, risk assessment, resource allocation. Primary objective: access Project Blackbird files and document content. Secondary objective: identify the foreign agents. Tertiary objective: get evidence to proper authorities. Risk factors: train security personnel, surveillance systems, potential weapons. Assets: building layout knowledge, delivery access, underestimated status. The next morning, I returned to TechFlow Plaza as a normal delivery driver. But this time I wasn't Maya Rodriguez, innocent delivery girl. I was Staff Sergeant Maya Rodriguez, Air Force Intelligence Specialist, and I had a mission. That night at 2:00 a.m., I returned to TechFlow Plaza. This time I wasn't wearing my delivery uniform. Black tactical clothing, night vision goggles, and minimal equipment. I had studied the building's security system for 9 months. I knew the weak points. I took the service elevator to the 47th floor. The Innovatic office was empty, but there was still light in conference room 47A. Looking through the door, I saw the same laptops on the table. Project Blackbird files were still open. When I entered, my old intelligence training kicked in. I copied files to a USB drive, took photos, gathered evidence, but the operation was cut short. Maya, when I turned around, I saw Derek Morrison, but those foreign agents were with him too. We knew we'd see you again, Staff Sergeant Rodriguez. Or are you still active duty? There was no corporate politeness left in Derek's voice. I'm a civilian, but you didn't come here as a civilian tonight, did you? The foreign agents were surrounding me, but I was no longer playing my innocent delivery driver act. Project Blackbird, U.S. military drone technology. Unauthorized access is a federal crime, but you're also making unauthorized access, Maya. Breaking and entering. Espionage. I'm doing my duty as an American citizen. Duty? Derek laughed. You're discharged military personnel. You have no duty. The tension in the room was increasing. 6 trained agents had surrounded me. Maya, you now have access to very dangerous information. Delete this information and forget it. This is our last warning. If you refuse, the consequences will be severe. What consequences? Your friends from your old unit might suffer mysterious accidents. Their professional careers might be damaged. Their families might be at risk. I couldn't stand this threat. I couldn't put my unit friends at risk. I understand. I pulled out the USB drive and placed it on the table. Good choice, Maya. But what they didn't know was that the USB drive only contained decoy files. The real data had been wirelessly uploaded to the cloud. Now go and never come back. As I left the building, I was smiling. Operational deception had been successful. 48 hours later, the FBI raided in a Vatican. Project Blackbird files, foreign agents' identities, and financial transactions were in FBI hands. Derek Morrison was held in federal custody. Foreign agents were deported. The media covered it as a major corporate espionage scandal. Me? I continued my life as Maya Rodriguez, delivery driver. But I no longer delivered to TechFlow Plaza. 3 months later, my old unit commander Colonel Chen called me. Maya, there's an open position in Homeland Security. Are you interested? Ma'am, I'm happy with my civilian life right now. Maya, you weren't trained just to do deliveries. Your skills should serve your country. I looked out the window at the San Francisco skyline. My Honda Civic was parked below, ready for the next delivery. Colonel, I'm Maya Rodriguez now. Maya who does deliveries. Staff Sergeant Rodriguez is in the past. I understand. But Maya, if your country needs you, then I'll be ready, ma'am. Always. Today, 6 months later, I still do deliveries on San Francisco streets. People continue to see me as that delivery girl. But now there's a difference. I'm no longer hiding. I'm watching. I still deliver to TechFlow Plaza. There's a new security system, new protocols. But I'm still the invisible delivery driver. Derek Morrison is in federal prison for an espionage ring dismantled. Project Blackbird secure. And me? I'm just Maya Rodriguez, 28 years old, driving a Honda Civic, wearing hoodies, delivery driver. At least that's what everyone thinks. As I prepared for my last delivery, a new notification came to my phone. TechFlow Plaza. Different company this time. I sighed and started my Honda. Because Maya Rodriguez's work never ends. And unusual things are always happening in San Francisco. There always needs to be someone watching. There always needs to be someone ready. I just do deliveries. But sometimes delivery means justice. If you listen to this story, remember, there are heroes around you every day. Delivery drivers, janitors, waitresses, security guards. People doing normal jobs but with extraordinary backgrounds. Don't underestimate them, because you never know who might save your life next time. Invisible heroes like Maya Rodriguez are everywhere. You just need to see them.